Hi guys, today I'll be doing a comparison of the latest HDMI 2.1 sync boxes to help you in deciding which one to go for. Details are in the description below, including purchasing links. So I'll be comparing the HDMI 2.1 sync boxes from Philips Hue, Govee, FancyLEDs and Lytmi. But I'm not entirely sure if Lytmi are still selling their sync box, but I'll include it regardless for testing purposes. I'll show you each sync box, showing you the different functionality each one has, test them out with some movies and gaming on both my PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X to see how well they perform and how immersive they feel, highlighting any pros and cons to give you a better idea of which one would be best for your TV setup. But before I begin, if you're new to the channel, hope you can support me by subscribing and hitting the bell icon to get notified of my next release. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. Now, before I test these out, there's a couple of things worth mentioning. These sync boxes can only sync input signals from HDMI ports that are connected directly via the sync box. So if you had a smart TV, it won't sync any of the built-in apps, or if you're using a TV with an aerial plugged in, this also won't sync. So in those use cases, it's probably best to go for a camera-based system like the Govee TV BACKLIGHT T2 kit. I'd say it's only worth getting these latest gen sync boxes if you have a TV that supports HDMI 2.1 and you have devices that support HDMI 2.1, so supporting 8K at 60Hz or 4K at 120Hz. So for instance, a PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, the latest Apple TV box, or the latest Roku streaming device. And worth noting, when choosing a sync box, everyone has different requirements, so what may be best for one person may not be best for someone else, as there's a lot of factors to take into consideration, so hopefully this video will help. Let's start by taking a closer look at all the sync boxes. Functionality wise, they all work off the same basic principle where you'd plug in all your input devices into the sync box via their respective HDMI cables, and there's a single output where you'd plug in a HDMI cable from the sync box to your TV. Introducing a sync box into your gaming setup may introduce a subtle amount of latency, but honestly, this isn't noticeable in any way. All the sync boxes support 8K at 60Hz and 4K at 120Hz, but Govee's goes the extra mile with theirs, so if you had it connected to a PC, it can support 4K at 144Hz, perfect if you're using it with a gaming PC with G-Sync and AMD FreeSync support, but it doesn't provide any additional benefit on a console. Input ports wise, Philips Hue and Govee have 4 ports, but Lytmi and FancyLEDs have 3. Philips Hue and FancyLEDs support eArc, Dolby Atmos together with CEC, but Philips Hue has an infrared receiver, allowing you to program in your remote control. Auto switching wise, Govee was the only one where you couldn't automatically switch the HDMI input source, so you'd have to do it via the app or the sync box. Onto the LEDs, and Govee, FancyLEDs and Lytmi all provide LED light strips covering 4 sides of your TV, and with their LEDs connecting directly into the sync box, this ensures the fastest direct performance. Whereas with Philips Hue, you have to purchase an LED separately, which is the Play Gradient Light strip, but this only provides lighting on 3 sides, so the top and the sides. But if you wanted coverage on the bottom area, you'd have to get the Play Gradient Light tube for your TV unit. So with the Philips Hue sync box, you'd have to purchase a hub, so the sync box and LEDs connect to this hub via the Zigbee protocol wirelessly. So with this setup, as it's not directly connected to the LEDs, there is a very subtle lag, but it's not something that's easily noticeable. Lytmi was the only one that had RGB IC LEDs, but the others had RGBW IC LEDs, which meant they all support red, green, blue and white with independent control, with all the LEDs being able to change the different colors. FancyLEDs has the most LEDs per meter at 96, but there's no protected cover on their LEDs, whereas Govee and Lytmi has a waterproof coating and Philips Hue has a diffuser on there. Size wise, Philips Hue supports TVs from 55 to 75 inches, Govee supports 55 to 85 inches, FancyLEDs can go from 24 inches to 95 inches, and Lytmi can go from 27 inches to 120 inches. The only cuttable ones are from FancyLEDs and Lytmi, but there's only 2 cuttable sizes for the Lytmi, so the 27 to 55 inch and the 90 to 120 inch. FancyLEDs and Lytmi are very similar as they work off the Tuya platform, which is used for smart tech. So in theory, if you use the Tuya or Smart Life app, you could also add the sync boxes in there too. Govee and Philips Hue have their own mobile apps. The app functionality is good from all 4 brands, but I'd say the functionality given by Govee and Philips Hue is more advanced, with segmented control from Govee and DIY customization, and mood lighting wise from Philips Hue, which looks absolutely stunning, and they both have the ability for room placement for each light, allowing you to get a more immersive experience if you had additional lights. Smart tech wise, they all support voice control via Alexa and Google. FancyLEDs and Lytmi also support Samsung SmartThings, whereas Philips Hue supports Apple HomeKit and Govee has Matter support. Ecosystem wise, Philips Hue and Govee are the best, with both systems allowing you to have up to 10 different devices connected and syncing at the same time. There's a 3D type room placement to give you a more immersive viewing experience. Philips Hue has the advantage here, as you can add other devices into the ecosystem, like a smart dimmer for example, so you don't have to use the app to control your lights. Philips Hue uses the Zigbee protocol to communicate with all their lights, and performance is very impressive, and Govee uses Bluetooth to connect its lights, where it also works really well. FancyLEDs has 3 additional products, so a neon light, hexagons and triangles, and Lytmi has light bars and a light strip, with placement for both of these being in a 2D format. They use Wi-Fi to communicate with these additional lights, so slightly slower than Philips Hue and Govee, but not to the extent to make these a deal breaker. Not sure what the limit is with these, as there's no mention on their websites of how many you can add in. Watching movies and TV shows, all the sync boxes cope pretty well with color replication and dark zones, but FancyLEDs was the best, with better color saturation levels and the best dark zone support, as you can see here with dark grey on the screen, which is from the settings menu on my Xbox. You can see both the Philips Hue and Govee produced a light color, whereas FancyLEDs actually dimmed down the LEDs, which is what I would have expected. They all work perfectly, even with the letterbox effect in movies, but with Govee it was a little bit flickery, but they do have an option in their app called black bar elimination that helps resolve this. Both Philips Hue and FancyLEDs supports eArc on their devices, so I didn't have any problems with my soundbar through them, with both also supporting Dolby Atmos. Neither Govee or Lytmi mention anything about eArc and Dolby Atmos support, but I did test with my Sonos soundbar, which connects via eArc to my TV, and testing with Govee, which did work, but some functionality occasionally went a bit weird. As an example, if I casted YouTube to my TV, I couldn't control the volume, but the volume control worked fine when I used with the sync box, so something to be aware of. On to gaming on these sync boxes and looking in the settings on my Xbox Series X, and you can see in TV details that everything is ticked. So 4K at 120Hz is supported on all the sync boxes except for Govee's, where Dolby Vision is supported but at a reduced rate of up to 4K at 60Hz, with the possibility of increased input latency when this is enabled. Next, going into video mode, everything is ticked, meaning that all the boxes support VRR, auto low latency mode, HDR, HDR10 and Dolby Vision. Testing with some gaming on both my Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. I've played a number of different games on these, and performance from these sync boxes and the LEDs has been awesome, and even the performance in the faster scenes is excellent, with the colors replicating from the screen to the LED light strip, and lighting is really impressive with literally no delays, and color transitions looked really smooth. But I did notice with all the sync boxes that if Dolby Vision is on when gaming, the lights on all the systems did occasionally look slightly washed out, and this was more prevalent in racing games. In terms of gaming, Govee wins with the AI functionality, where they really have created the next gen in sync boxes with their in-game actions and scenes, delivering a customized lighting effect, which does look pretty awesome when you're gaming. All sync boxes have a music sync option, but Philips Hue works off the audio from the HDMI input. There's no customization available on this. The colors just move along with the beat that's going on, whereas the other systems have a microphone to pick up the audio levels in a room, so the lights sync to any sounds in the room, and that generally worked well on all devices. And they also had different configuration options available, so you can flip between different scenes for your music sync. Static lighting wise, you might occasionally not want the lights syncing and you just want some mood lighting. For example, if you're watching TV or using one of the smart apps from your TV or just watching TV via the aerial. FancyLEDs and Lytmi was the most limited with a small number of scenes and you could set a single color with no segmented control. Govee had a lot of scenes with the ability to create your own segmented control of the LEDs, providing a lot of flexibility together with creating your own DIY scenes. But in this category, Philips Hue wins hands down, with it having a selection of different colors ranging from single colors to a combination of colors, where on some of them you'll see a play button, so if you press that it does a very subtle transition of the colors, with it being very smooth and subtle that you're not even able to notice. Personally, I really like this option as you have a great selection of color schemes helping to set a vibe in your room, especially if you have multiple lights linked, and the quality of the lighting on this looks absolutely stunning. Probably the best I've seen from all the different lighting brands I've tested. So which is the best sync box? It really is a tough one as no sync box is perfect. Each one has its pros and cons, but picking the best one really depends on your usage and budget. Coming in at number 1, if money was no issue, then I definitely recommend going for the new Philips Hue sync box. The lighting quality, expandability of the ecosystem and general support wise, as it supports eArc, Dolby Atmos and CEC, it's definitely the best out there of all the sync boxes I've tested, but price wise the cost of this is ridiculously high and this is something that puts a lot of people off it. A joint number 2 I'd say has to go to both FancyLEDs and Govee. FancyLEDs has the best LED light strip with 96 LEDs, helping to give the best color representation, and in HDR content it delivers the best saturation, with it having a saturation control option helping to enhance the colors even more. It also offers the best dark zone support and giving the best whites even in the brighter scenes. eArc and Dolby Atmos support is there together with CEC, but if you planned on syncing with other lights in their ecosystem, those lights will sync at a slightly slower rate as it's working over Wi-Fi, but it wasn't that bad to the extent to make it a deal breaker. FancyLEDs I'd say is a better all-round system which does everything, so the perfect option to go for if you weren't bothered by Govee's AI for gaming. If you wanted a standalone system with no additional lights, this is definitely the one to go for. Gaming wise, Govee can do 4K at 144Hz, perfect if you're using it with a gaming PC with G-Sync and AMD FreeSync support, but it doesn't provide any additional benefit on a console. Their AI functionality makes this the next gen in sync boxes, plus you have the ability to sync up to 10 additional lights using the Dream View option. So if you're already in the Govee ecosystem, going for this is a no-brainer. Negatives wise, I didn't like the fact that the sync box couldn't auto switch HDMI sources. Dolby Vision is supported but at a reduced rate of up to 4K at 60Hz, with the possibility of increased input latency when this is enabled, and I don't think eArc and Dolby Atmos was supported. The Lytmi sync box comes in at number 3, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's definitely good, but the others are better in my opinion. Size wise, it supports up to 120 inches, so it would be a good option to go for if you wanted to use it with a projector screen. So there you have it. You've come to the end of another video, and I hope it's helped anyone thinking of purchasing one of the newer HDMI 2.1 sync boxes. Details are in the description below, including purchasing links, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and let me know which sync box you think is the best. For those of you who come to the end of this video, please leave a comment with best sync box, as it's awesome to see who's got to the end of my video, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You can follow me on my socials. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to be notified of my next release. Thanks for viewing, and see you in the next one.